Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted and excited to open this conference about the promotion of and empowerment of women's rights and family law in Israel, from planning to action. My name is Gilit Inbar Kimchi, and I would like to thank the EU for helping us fund this project in the past 2 years, which I had coordinated. Here at the Rachman Center, we point out that the unique situation with respect to gender inequality of women in Israel, and that distinguishes Israeli women from women in other industrialized countries. Israel is the only country of the industrialized countries where there is legal, formal discrimination of women because there is exclusive application of religious law on matters of marriage and divorce. Because of the inherent and patriarchal nature of Jewish laws, all women in Israel, Druze, Christian, Muslim, and Jewish, all find themselves subjected to surprising laws in the most critical areas of their family life, with the most significant impact on the life of every woman. As it was in the report submitted to the UN, the human rights of Israeli women are being violated in various ways, and the most prominent one is the right to leave their family unit, that is the option to receive a divorce. Our work is made up of activist research, working on regulation and legislation, providing support to women, and on this backdrop we received funding from the EU, and we're going to go over all of our activities that are part of this project in this conference. We are summarizing this project, but this is merely the beginning of a new era in which we are going to continue operate with the tools that we have established in this project in the past 2 years. The timing of this conference is in line with the marking of International Women's Day in March, because we believe that women's rights in Israel need to be equal to the international standards by using norms and international conventions as a basis for creating equality. As you have noticed, there are paintings and poems exhibited in this room, and I would like to invite Eva Diekman, the curator of the exhibition, who deals with rehabilitative art, and she provides workshops to empower women in processes of divorce. And now she will read to us a poem. A glass is shattered like barren land. Its surface signifies the fractures. Sometimes it is tempted to break down into pieces, and on second thought, it glues it all together. She's angry about herself and her inability to be, as she used to be, a display window, and she wants to prove to the child that she has a right to exist. And how can she say, I miss the way you looked at me and yourself? We were reflected in each other as one unit, and the pain is there in every shred of glass, and my existence depends on yours, and the child doesn't understand her pain. He was just at all with her like a beautiful glass. The relationship between them were well defined. When he wanted to see himself in her as a mirror, she pretended, and what do you want now? You can break down into pieces. I shall not redeem your freedom in money or in words. Our matters are finished between us. And now she has tears. She will once again live, pretend, and advance herself in life. Thank you very much, Eva. Now I am honored to invite for the opening comments Eva Majibush, the incoming Director General of the Authority for the Advancement of Women. This is her first time with us, and this is a wonderful opportunity. Good luck. Okay, so I'm Eva to another. We grow in strength. So to the dear dean, the faculty, Professor Oren Paraz, distinguished guests, when I entered the public sphere after over 15 years in the private I received a good advice. I was told there are two matters you shouldn't touch upon: these church and state issues and the relationship between Jews and Palestinians. And you can imagine how delighted I was to be invited to a conference that deals with both these issues simultaneously. And I'm here as a public figure. I've only been 4 months in this position, so I could not bring with me to this conference the desired solutions. But there is no doubt that the current situation in which women's status in divorce and in other civilian matters is inferior to that of man. Doesn't make sense, and it must change. And I believe, or I think, that the women who are leading this process are actually religious women who prove that one can combine belief and feminine views, and not only is there no contradiction between the two, but on the contrary, the two compatible. And wherever there is some friction between the traditional worldview, which maybe is in line with less advanced eras, and the issue of gender equality, it is the faith, the religion, that needs to adapt itself to its believers. It's possible. It is happening. I don't remember when was the last time that we participated in throwing stones on people, as it says in the Bible, except maybe for Facebook. And you know, the oral law changes, the reality changes, and I think even the most pious people cannot find any justification to review women as second-class citizens. And in this past 4 months, I also saw some hypocrisy around the discourse regarding women's status. A few weeks ago, I participated in a delegation that went to the UN Committee rights, where I was scolded by countries such as Indonesia, Libya, China, and South Africa. I'll try to refrain from being cynical, but it was very hard for me to hear how countries that don't have really a good reputation in human rights can be so meticulous in their criticism. And it's not just about local patriotism. Even though I am patriotic, but I do dislike hypocrisy. We definitely have things that we need to improve, but we're constantly learning, and we're trying to improve and find solutions. You in the Rachman Center, I believe, are part of this solution. It will take time and effort, and we all remember that this is a tango, one step forward, one step back, some trailblazing moments alongside some very harsh examples of women's exclusion. Now, we can celebrate the achievements and feel pain for the losses, but we must admit that there is a very thorough process going on here. I hope that in joint forces we will be able to see in Israel's 70th anniversary more achievements to be proud of and more solutions that will become reality. I'd like to thank all the people who are involved in this. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Eva.
On holiday this week, so he's not able to join. And I found since I arrived here, I've been apologizing to quite a lot of people that I'm not Estelle Kadouche, who I understand a lot of you know. Unfortunately, she was hoping to be here, but she's sick, and she's been the linchpin in our office in supporting this project. Israel and the European Union share a common commitment, I believe, to the promotion of women's rights and gender equality. And that has been specifically referred to in the European Neighbourhood Policy Action Plan, which was jointly agreed between the EU and the State of Israel back in 2005. Israel's commitment to enhancement of women's rights and gender equality was also recently illustrated in the submission of its 6th periodic report to the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. And we've also had very recently Israel's Universal Periodic Review, the Human Rights Council. A number of our colleagues here came to brief EU missions on that before that was presented in Geneva, and the issue of women's rights and gender equality made up a significant part of the national report which was submitted there and was very much welcome. The European Union also, through its independent human rights and democracy instrument, which funded this project, offers possibilities for Israeli civil society at national level to contribute to the development and consolidation of all human rights. And we believe that universities, particular centers for human rights, such as the Rachman Center, have a critical role to play in this context. Their legal expertise allows them to promote Israel's adherence to international human rights commitments in a constructive manner, notably in international arenas, such as was the case in CEDAW last year. And I say this with, in all humility as well. I mean, this is an area where I think the European Union and Israel learn from each other. It's not where one side tries to lecture the other, and I don't think that's the model we would wish to apply or think of what this work as sort of encompassing that. From our point of view, I say with that humility, I think we can be satisfied with all that has been achieved to enhance women's rights in the last decades, both in the European Union and in Israel, through legislative reform and other matters. Israel is also taking steps to ratify the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, the so-called Istanbul Convention. But there's still a lot that needs to be done, both in Europe and Israel, and this is something which I think brings us together today. As a couple of people have already indicated, and is at the center of this project, in Israel, family law has been identified as a key factor impeding women's rights and gender equality. So I'm honored to be standing here today in this university to support political, official, academic, and civil engagement on this critical issue. The status of an individual, I think, is multidimensional, and one can't guarantee one dimension without the others. Therefore, women's equality ought to be ensured in all public and private spheres, notably in religious courts and family law courts, and we've heard about some of the unique aspects of Israel in this regard this morning. But Israel's will to empower women to assume leadership roles in their respective communities won't be achieved without women not acquiring full rights, equal rights in family law. The European Union believes that helping women who have been discriminated against for generations, both in our societies and elsewhere, to recognize their power to lead change should be a key objective, a shared objective for the international community. That's why we're very proud and glad to be associated with Israeli academic and civil society efforts to work on alleviating women's hardships in divorce procedures as a milestone to promoting the position of women in Israeli society. Finally, even though we are gathered here at the closing event, the sort of graduation ceremony, if you like, for the project, implemented by the Rachman Center and Kolzhucht, it certainly does not mean that joint efforts of all parties and our commitment as well, and those of other stakeholders involved in promoting and supporting the realization of women's equality come to an end. We'd like to think it is the opposite, and we would like to see in our presence today the manifestation of our renewed commitment to act together towards further improvement on women's rights and gender equality. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I'm honored to invite Ronen Gilor, the head of the Department for Human Rights and International Organizations from the Foreign Ministry. Thank you very much. Good morning, and this is the morning of, we're very close to International Women's Day. Professor Perez, the Dean of the Faculty of Law, Professor Halperin Kadari, and I understand that Member of Knesset Tuma Suleiman is not coming. Oh, she will be coming soon, so we'll greet her soon. And Eva Mejibush, the Director General of the Authority for Advancement of Women's Status, who spoke this morning. A distinguished guest. The first session this morning will talk about the importance of international work in order to promote gender equality in Israel. Now I'd like to greet my dear friend.
In Brussels when I was stationed there, and you were a great contact in the EAS. Thank you very much for being here today. אני רוצה לספר לכם כמה סיפורים.
To tell you a few stories about our work, the international work of the Foreign Ministry and that of the Israeli government, along with my colleagues from the Ministry of Justice and Hila, and all of us together, Eva Mejibush and the Director General of the Ministry of Justice and our ambassador to the UN institutions in Geneva, Aviva Raz Shechter. We were in the Israeli delegation to the UPR. This is a central mechanism for the Human Rights Council, what we can call in Israel, in Hebrew in free translation, questions to organizations, and this was a group of leading women and leaders in human rights. Eva was there. The other people that I had mentioned before were also there. The international coordinator for the struggle against trafficking in human beings was there. The national coordinator on the issue of the battle against racism. And there were a lot of other good people there who deal with other topics, and the main presence of this delegation was a female presence, and that was wherever you saw the Israeli group, it was very obvious, and the delegation there really changed the nature of the Human Rights Council, because often much criticism is leveled at Israel from this council, and I think Israel is being discriminated in that council, and on that day we changed something in Geneva, and that was very important. 3 months before that, this was in January, and in October we were in CEDAW in the Committee for Equal Rights in Geneva, and the deputy president of that committee is Professor Halperin Kadari, and the Israeli delegation there also received compliments from the International Committee. Professor Kadari wasn't active, but she was obviously a member of the committee, and that's despite the fact that Israel does have some reservations on the CEDAW convention, and there is some international criticism over these reservations, and still everybody knows what we are doing and how we are promoting this topic of women's rights in Israel and human rights in general. And last year in CSW in New York, the Commission on the Status of Women, this is a committee that convenes annually. We were very active there as well. Usually every year there are a lot of thematic decisions in this committee, and the only political decision which actually does some severe politicization view in this Committee for Women's Status is the decision regarding the status of Palestinian women, and that doesn't talk about objective issues, but rather it is yet another instrument used for leveling harsh criticism at Israel. And last year, for the first time, we led a consensual decision there of all the member states. There are 45 member states, and most of them even not friendly to Israel, but we managed to pass a decision on the topic of prevention of sexual harassment in the workplace, and it's very important that such a decision was reached, and it was under Israeli leadership. And we have several collaborations with the Geneva Human Rights Council, and there was a visit here 18 months ago of the special rapporteur on the topic of violence against women, and she came here. There were 2 state visits. She visited here, that was one visit, and she also visited the Palestinian Authority and Gaza too, and there was a very deep and big exposure of everything that's going on in Israel, including certain matters that are Israel's challenges. And I can tell you that we didn't really like her report about Israel, because she actually used the opportunity twice on the report on the Palestinians and also in her report on Israel to level some very harsh criticism on the Palestinian issue regarding our presence in Judea and Samaria, a presence that the international community at least claims that we still have in Gaza. And we, of course, are going to continue the dialogue with the Human Rights Council in Geneva. Before I finish, I'd like to say that the activities, the rich and flourishing activities of the Israeli society is a winning factor of Israel in the international work, and in the Rachman Center is leading on the topic of women's rights from planning to action. And I, who have an MA from this university in conflict resolution, I head the human rights decision in the foreign ministry. I'd like to congratulate the Rachman Center and you, and I would like to reinforce in everything you do in such an important topic that's pulling us upwards for social and gender equality. Bless you all. Thank you very much, Ronen Gilor. Now I'm honored to invite Professor Oran Perez, the Dean of the Faculty of Law in Bar-Ilan University.
Guest. So it's a really great honor to open this conference, and Reichman Center is really a center that we are very proud that is within the faculty. And I think it's now somewhat difficult times in Israel for women rights. There have been talks recently about segregation of women in universities and in the army in ways that, speaking as a secular person, would seem almost impossible to imagine. Usually we think about a progress, and this has been a somewhat worrisome dynamics in recent years in Israel. And I think what is unique in Reichman Center is that it fights for women's rights. The focus is mainly on family law, but I think the agenda is much larger and more extensive than family law, and it is doing that in a way which is sensitive to the values of Judaism. So the perspective is not completely secular as if it is done in a university in Europe or in the US, but in a way which is very sensitive to Israeli and Jewish values, and it shows how women's rights can be maintained and advanced in Israel in a way which is sensitive to Israeli and Jewish cultures. And it is very important that Reichman Center is indeed in Bar-Ilan University and in our law faculty, because Bar-Ilan has inbuilt sensitivity to Jewish values, and the center has been advancing these ideas in a very courageous way against critique from various sectors in the Israeli society for a long time. And this project is one aspect of the center actions, and I truly hope that this won't be just a single shot cooperation with the EU. We have various cooperations with the EU, and I hope that maybe with your help there could be a future to this project and to others, because I think the center is doing very important work that should be encouraged, and as always, funding is always important in these areas. So again, I want to congratulate Ruti and the team and Galit and all the others, and hope that we'll have an interesting day.
תודה רבה. אני רוצה להזמין אתכם לעבור לשבת.
Invite you to sit over there. On to the first session, I would like to show you a video. Let me repeat this for the sake of interpretation. Before we move on to the first session, I'd like to present a video that we had produced in the project that focuses on emotional support and volunteers. And some of these volunteers from Isha Letzidech, A Woman Beside You, are here, and we'd like to thank them for all of their significant and helpful work.
מרכז רייכמן הוא גוף משפטי חברתי שפועל מתוך האקדמיה לקידום זכויות נשים באופן הרחב, תוך התמקדות בזכויות נשים בדיני המשפחה בישראל. נשים בתוך ההליך המשפטי נמצאות באמת בתקופה מאוד מאוד קשה בחיים שלהן. הן נמצאות בסוג של מלחמה, מאבק, שהן לא כל כך מורגלות ברור שחייבות להקים פה במרכז רקמן שירות נוסף, הוליסטי, שיכול לתמוך בנשים ולחזק אותם.
כמה לעולם ולעולם. וזאת הייתה הצעה של תבואתי, ממש, שהייתי מעלה בדעתי, ובכלל משפחית שיש לבואתי. הרגשתי שבאמת יש את האחת שמבינה, שיודעת, שהתהליך הוא התחיל ממקום של בדידות נוראית, שהרגשתי שאני חייבת איזושהי עזרה, סיוע, והרגשתי שנשארתי בודדה במערכה הזאת. גם בשביל המקום הבודד הזה, זה מקום מאוד קשה. צריך מישהו שתן לך לחוש שאתה המרכז.
היי, מדברת עורכת דין אסנת פרינסקי, מרכז רקמן.
הפניות מגיעות אלינו לכמה פניות של הייעוץ המשפטי, כשהרכזות שלנו בעצם לקחו את כל הפרטים בקבילה, ולאחר מכן השיחה מעוברת לעורכת דין.
שנייה. הוא היה לי מכאן שפתיים? אוקיי.
בדרך כלל אני מסרטטת לה את מפת הדרכים. מה היא צריכה בעצם לעשות? אם היא מזהה בשיחה שיש שם איזשהו קושי לצורך בתמיכה רגשית, אני כבר נותנת את הקשר ומציעה לה את מפת הדרכים הרגשית.
יש לנו איזושהי מסגרת שקוראים לה אישה לצידך, שבעצם את מקבלת מתנדבת, שהיא עבורך אוזן קשבת. זה משהו שהיית רוצה?
בכלל כל הנושא של ההתנדבות זה באמת לחפש איזושהי משמעות בחיים הגדולים קטנים. והנה מצאתי אישה שבאמת שהסתופה לי ואני הסתופה לה. זה אהבה חינם. זה מאוד מרגש.
הסלוגן הזה של sisterhood, זה לא סיסמה ריקה מתוכן, זה דבר אמיתי, ולמלא אנחנו, אני יודעת לאן אני מגיעות.
התנאי הבסיסי שניסינו ככה לזהות זה באמת הרצון שלהם לתמוך, היכולת הקשבה שלהם הבסיסית, וחיפשנו את אלה שיודעות להקשיב, את אלה שיכולות להיות לא שיפוטיות. זה גיהנום. זה באמת לחוות שאתה לבד בתהליך שהוא ממילא קשה, אבל שכל מי שאתה רוצה לסמוך עליו הוא בסוף עוקץ אותך, מתעלל בך. וידעתי. זה הדבר הכי משמעותי. הכי. אתה לא נשאר שקוף. מישהו ראה אותך. מישהו ראה אותך.
כל מה חיפשתי קבוצה שתיפתח, חיכיתי לזה ממש. ונתן לי כוח להמשיך הלאה, ולא לפחד. בהתחזקות עם עצמי, וזה מה שחשוב לי.